Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Larkin, one half of the Steve and Mike Show. www.steveandmikeshow.com is up and running, where you can hear such shows as you're about to hear today. This is another edition of On the Mic with Mike, and I am pleased to have on the beautiful, the lovely, and the most certainly talented goddess and wrestler that is Miss Gia DeLuca. Gia, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Pleasure being here.
Well, first and foremost, I have to say this. With someone of your athleticism and someone of your overall prowess, height, and your overall stature, I have to say this. You're probably one of the most dominant people that I've ever seen, and it's truly a pleasure to be speaking with you. I got nothing but love and respect to say on that front.
Gee, thanks.
Well, here's the thing. Well, I mean, people talk about, like, when you, we'll also correlate and tie in a lot of wrestling here, but if you talk about David versus Goliath, and we talk about, the goddess, being another G word with Goliath, I mean, I think you have a lot of fun with what you do in the session wrestling thing, and it makes for a lot of great dynamics with people that you work with, so I actually see that as a plus. And you're a very consummate professional, so that adds a lot to you as an overall character.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So let's start off first and foremost by asking session wrestling, the session wrestling world, fetish modeling. How did you get involved in this crazy world that is both? I mean, you're doing your thing in both different aspects, and I mean, I'm curious to ask how you got into session wrestling.
Yeah, well, I was a dancer for years, and one day this short little guy came into the club, and I just started talking to him, and I'm like, oh, what do you do? And he's like, I do wrestling. And I'm like, where? I want to do wrestling. So that weekend I wrestled him, and he had a clip store, and I wasn't really aware of like the whole session world or anything like that. I actually didn't find out about session wrestling until like 4 or 5 years later, and I really like the one-on-one, like meeting new people, and all the different fun fetishes, and just wrestling in general. I really enjoy it, and I actually started taking BJJ to to get better, and wrestling classes. I've been doing it for almost 2 years now and really enjoying it. I was competing with just doing BJJ as well, but I do get most enjoyment out of my sessions and meeting the other girls and wrestling the other girls. So that's what I'm really focusing on right now.
First and foremost, beautifully said. And I also have to say, you actually kind of segued into something, because I think the common misconception a lot of people see, because we see beautiful women like yourself, Miss Gia, and we also see you and, like you mentioned, like the little guys, and like we're going to talk about a lot of people that you worked with. But I mean, there's body scissors, there's a lot of stuff like the BJJ aspect. A lot of people don't really realize like the training that goes into it. They just see, here's this beautiful woman putting a leg scissor on a guy or on a girl, and they're having fun. And yes, there's the beauty aspect of it, but the physical part that goes into it, because like you mentioned, the BJJ, and there's a lot of combative nature involved. So I mean, session wrestling, I always look at it like this. It's an art form like everything else, and I think it should be treated as such.
It is, yeah, for sure.
And I mean, I look at it also with you and with what you do, because like we talk about the dynamic, I've got to say, I've seen a lot of your stuff with Tiny Texie, and I got to say, Tiny Texie in her own right, first and foremost, a little cutie, and also you two probably have some of the funnest like videos I've ever seen, and just the fun, just that atmosphere and the dynamic between you two. So can you please tell us what it's like working with Tiny Texie?
She's a sweetheart. I absolutely love that woman. She is 3'6", like 40 pounds. Excuse me. And we worked together first in Chicago. We were doing the Exotica show, and we just really hit it off, and we made a bunch of clips there and did some wrestling as well. And I got the pleasure of working with her again at FetCon this past week, which was awesome.
Well, that also segues me, because I got to ask you about this FetCon, because FetCon absolutely amazing. We have a lot of fans that go out there to see you and Tiny Texie and more in support. So can you tell us about the experience overall that is FetCon?
Oh, it's so great. It's in beautiful St. Pete's, Florida, and it was such a good convention. I highly recommend anyone go there. They had so much stuff going on, and I didn't even get to see half of it. They had like a bunch of you could do like some little They have like courses like 101 bondage, 101 this, and all sorts of fun things like that. They have kinky red carpet pool parties. They had a fetish awards, and then it's also like a great time to like meet up with other models and work with them and shoot with them as well. I had such a good time. It was awesome. I'll definitely be back next year.
I hope to see you back, because I saw some of the stuff from the red carpet with yourself, Devlin the Goliath, and more. I mean, it looked like a fun time, and I mean, I look at it like this as well. Us as human beings, whether it be guys or girls in the fetish industry, and like you mentioned, that kinky aspect, Gia. I mean, there's a lot of people that are made up a little differently, and we all like a different preferences, and we all like different things. So it's kind of interesting to pick people's brains when it goes into session wrestling or fetish modeling overall to see what people are into.
Yeah, absolutely. And I honestly think kinky people are the best kind of people. They're so interesting. There's so much fun. I feel so natural and just safe like around them. Like it's just really interesting. Like these are people who are just like going outside of the box, like getting outside of that normal quote unquote world, so it's just super interesting to like experience all these different experiences and see like what you're into, because like everyone has a fetish, like you just don't know about it yet, or you haven't grown into it, you haven't allowed yourself to experience different things because you may be scared of the outcome, but you should try everything once.
And you know what's funny? To make a pop culture reference, to quote the late great Debbie Reynolds in Halloween Town, being normal is vastly overrated. So I mean, stepping out of the norm, stepping out of your zone, I guess, and trying to go to another zone and actually open up to see what you do, and whether it be in the session world or whatever you're into. I mean, I think that's great. You get to explore things, like you mentioned. It's kind of like that YOLO effect. You only live once. Try something and see how it
Yeah,
goes.
exactly. You should try everything once.
Very true. And I mean, going against the likes of yourself, and another one I gotta say, who's another, like we mentioned, Devlin, which, by the way, another beautiful human being like yourself, amazing, amazing prowess as well. Michaela
Mhm.
Miles. Michaela Miles is another one. So I gotta say, you three are like a triple threat of, I don't want to say triple threat of goddesses, but triple threat of just prowess and overall dominance. I think you guys make a hell of a tandem.
Yeah, we'd make an awesome squad, huh?
You do. Well, that's the thing. Like I said, it piques the curiosity. You look at all the session wrestlers, and then here comes you two. And I'm not gonna say, well, Amazon. I mean, there's Amazon Amanda. There's yourself. There's a lot of them. But that, again, the prowess aspect of that, it's intriguing, and it's kind of like, all right, here's this girl. Here's this girl. I kind of want this girl, because in life we challenge ourselves, and I think you guys would be up for the challenge, obviously, with how you do and going to each and every one of your sessions, every one of your matchups. So I mean, you kind of want to test yourself, and it's always very intriguing to see that, to correlate that into everyday life, if you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I think so.
Now, with you, I have to say this, and I'm actually just want to ask you this because we look at the wrestling aspect that's in there and a lot of combative natures, like we mentioned, jiu-jitsu, BJJ, mixed martial arts to an extent, but I gotta ask you, with the pro wrestling world and mixed martial arts coming together, like for instance, back in the 90s, we saw the Ken Shamrocks, the Tank Abbotts, the Dan Severns, and then later on we had the Brock Lesnars and even CM Punk dabble into it, and the Ronda Rouseys and more from that side of things. I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the pro wrestling and mixed martial arts, correlating and tying in and everything coming together, seeing each and every MMA fighter trying wrestling or wrestling trying MMA? What do you think about how that's evolved over the years?
Well, I think like within every sport, you should not just stick to that one thing. You should, like, say you're a wrestler, you should take BJJ, you should take boxing, you should take gymnastics. Like, the more conditioning, the more different ways you can move your body, the more you're strengthening it. Something people don't know about me is I've been a personal trainer and pole fitness instructor for the last 9 years. So I do quite a bit of gymnastics, acro, um, also like weights as well, but I don't focus on weights. I love like making those cool like tricks on the pole, and I do find that it does complement my BJJ very well because I have the flexibility and the upper body strength that you don't necessarily build from wrestling your BJJ, because it is more legs and You know what I mean? So you're able to work yourself and meld yourself into like an all-around athlete and develop your own style. You know what I mean?
Oh yes, and I look at it like this: like you look at like how pro wrestling, like we see all these styles, like strong style, for instance. We see Japanese wrestling, British wrestling, lucha libre with Mexico. If you're not adding more to your repertoire and actually learning and expanding your overall move set and working on other stuff with you, I think that helps and it makes you a better performer and a better athlete all around.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, first and foremost, now we've talked about your prowess and all that, but I just got to say this to you, just because I'm familiar with you and your training and your weights. I got to just say this, and I mean this with the utmost sincerity and respect. You are an absolute beast on that front because I see you doing your thing with your weights and stuff. So I got to commend you on that because you're always in there and you're always, mind, body, and soul ready to go and just, be a better you and just apply yourself.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Now, with this, this also segues into a little company called LFC, Lingerie Fighting Championship. We've seen your photos on UbiFan, and I will put the link in the description where we can check out the lovely Miss Goddess Gia DeLuca. But Miss DeLuca, I have to say this to you, with another common misconception with LFC, much like the session wrestling world, is they see girls in lingerie and they don't think that there's a lot of work that goes into it. LFC 25, we saw Greg Frito, who was a man that was mentored by Floyd Mayweather Sr., help a lot to train the girls, and then there's Syndicate MMA with Roxanne Matafieri of UFC and Stephan Bonner, who have trained there. So there's a lot of aspect that people don't even realize that go into it. It's not just about looking good. There's hard work that also goes into it. So I'm going to say this to you right now. Two-parter. Overall, what are your thoughts about Lingerie Fighting Championship? And number two, I'm just going to say this, not really a question, more of a statement, Miss Gia DeLuca. I think you'd be a perfect fit.
Thank you. I think it's awesome. I love wearing lingerie and I love wrestling and fighting. So I think it's wonderful. I think it's great, honestly. Like, bunch of hot chicks who are all ripped, beating each other up. Fuck yeah.
Well, first and foremost, see, that's the spirit and the attitude that I like because I look at it like this. We have all different girls, of different shapes and sizes, and LFC does not discriminate. We love and we appreciate everybody that's a fan of Lingerie Fighting Championship and the people that want to get into it. So I see a person like yourself, and I think there's a lot of people that you can go against. There's this girl named Jessie El Toro Santos. There's Lauren the Animal Fogel. There's Jolene the Valkyrie Hex. There's Andrea the Stormblood Doi. All have very significant backgrounds in the MMA, pro wrestling, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, whatever field it may be that goes into different art forms that represent Lingerie Fighting Championships. I think you can encompass and capture that in a future bout. So I'm going to tell you right now, I hope it happens.
Thank you. I hope it happens too.
So I'm just going to say this to you as well because I was having this conversation and I look at it like this because we were talking about sports as well. Another thing that has an L in it, the Lingerie Football League, which is now the Legends Football League. Look at Lingerie Football League. When that came out, everybody just thought kind of like to encompass it and correlate and tie back to LFC. You look at LFL, like the Lingerie Football League. Oh, it's just girls running around in their lingerie. It's not real football. But then you actually watch those games and god dang, those girls are kicking the living crap out of each other and you're like, holy hell. And that's what I'm saying. That's the common misconception because you see the beauty aspect, but you ignore the physicality and the work that goes into it. And I think that's the common misconception, like we mentioned, and kind of like an ignorant factor to have about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, 100%. It does. And that's what I look at, like, I'll be honest with you, like, obviously you're tall, you're 6 foot, like I mentioned, the prowess, you are who you are, and I think that's wonderful, and I think that's beautiful because you, mind, body, and soul, to reiterate again, just you have that thing about me here. This is me. This is who I am. I'm Gia DeLuca. I'm going out here. Yes, I'm tall. Yes, I'm dominant, but I am me and I am one. So, I mean, I got to say this. I like your aura as well, if I can add to that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, I mean, personally, all in all with you, like we talked about, like Devlin, we talked about Amazon Amanda, we talked about Michaela Miles, we talked about Tiny Texie. I've seen Jasmine Mendez, Bailey Page, Vanessa Rain, a whole lot that have worked with you. And I got to say this right now, as far as the session community, the fetish community, what have you, however you want to define it, I think each and every one of you are doing your thing and you add a lot and incorporate a lot of elements to you. So for that, I salute each and every one of you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So I have to say this to you, and as always, I'm going to say this right now. I've been enjoying picking your brain, and I've been enjoying just like you as a whole because, like I said, you have a great attitude, and that's going to get you far. And I got to say, stay on your grind, and please continue to shine. And anytime you want to come back on the show, you're more than welcome to. I'd be happy to have you again.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here and chatting with you.
It's my pleasure. Please, you make people like yourself make my job easy because I can tell you're very passionate about what you do, and I'm a very passionate individual as well. So for that, I thank you because, like I said, you make my job easy, and I love giving people the platform to tell their stories, like we did today with yourself, Miss Gia DeLuca. But I want to ask you as well, if you have any advice for anybody that wants to get into the session wrestling, modeling, or what have you, whatever endeavor, what advice would you give them, Miss DeLuca?
Just start doing there. Get your foot in the door. Like, if you want to start wrestling, take wrestling lessons. Reach out to people to work with them. Like, don't give up. Keep working towards that goal. It doesn't just come to you. It's something you have to work at, period. You just have to do it. You know what I mean?
And first and foremost, it's very blunt, it's very true, and it's very adamant because I say this about you from the training aspect, from what you do. I like to inspire and encourage with this show, and that right there, if that's not inspiration and courage, I don't know what is. So please, adhere to Miss Gia DeLuca's words. And I'm going to say this to you, as before I have you plug the social media, I just have one thing I'd like to add to that, Miss DeLuca. As someone who was raised by two great and wonderful women, my mother and my grandmother, God rest her soul. We were talking about this before. Beauty, strength, and dominance, the three key elements that make women the work of art and them as a whole. So I got to say, you exude and accentuate each and every one of that. And like I said, much love and respect to you.
So sweet. Thank you, Michael.
You are very welcome. Now, this is where I step back because, first and foremost, ladies first. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, upcoming events. Please let everyone know where we can find you.
Okay, so my Instagram just got deleted for the third time yesterday.
Okay, hold on. Before, I don't mean to cut you off, Gia, but I gotta say this. I saw this on Instagram last night because I'll be honest with you, I was gonna message you and just talk about what we were gonna do today, and I'm just like, God dang, her Instagram is gone. Well, that's the thing because I've seen a lot of that with people. Everybody's getting deleted. I don't know, going against the Instagram guidelines. What the heck happened?
It's so frustrating. I'm so careful about what I post. I literally was just posting selfies and pictures from FetCon, like not even nude ones, but they're becoming very strict. So I made a new one, fourth one. It's Gia, Gia 4.0. And I do have my Twitter, Tall Goddess Gia. And I do have my website, tallgoddessgia.ca or .com, whichever. And I have all of on my website, I pretty much update it. So tallgoddessgia.ca, and it'll show my latest Instagrams. And Twitter is going strong. Knock on wood, it doesn't get deleted. But yeah, we're going good. Twitter's the place where it's at, it seems. So yeah, Tall Goddess Gia on Twitter.
All right, so I'll put both in there. And by the way, I have to say, very creative with the 4.0 because it's like, God dang, you're on there 4 times. Here I am again trying to. Ugh. That's the thing. That's the thing that's frustrating. And if I could be honest with you, I've seen your photos on Instagram. I have seen a lot worse. So I'm just like, what in the world? You know what I'm saying? Like you post, I've noticed the selfies, and I noticed what you post from like events and stuff, and I'm just like, what in the hell, man?
Yeah, it's such a shame, and then you have celebrities posting full nips and everything. You're like, what the hell? It's just hating on I guess they classify me as a sex worker because I do domination stuff as well, and I feel like this world is regressing. What are we coming to? If you can't post a picture of you and say what you are, it's just really messed up. So I'm just gonna keep making Instagrams every time I get deleted, but I obviously am going to be posting more on Twitter now because
Well, first and foremost, I will say this with your fans and everything. You may be deleted on Instagram, but you will never be deleted in our hearts. So there you go.
So, thank you.
You're very welcome. But I have to say this, but really, in all honesty, I mean, I look at what you post and obviously with what goes on with all these celebrities. It's very frustrating, but I gotta say, please follow her on Twitter because you get to see a lot of the stuff we talk about, like Tiny Texie, Michaela Miles, dominating guys.
You can post it all on Twitter.
Exactly. We get the little minute clips of you and a little sample of what we get the preview. That's what I love it. So
yeah.
So I gotta say this to you, Miss Gia DeLuca. Besides the fact that we talked about, inspiring, encouraging in your words for any advice, but I also like to give you the floor to say, do you have any final words for your fans and the supporters that love the tall goddess that is yourself, Miss Gia DeLuca?
Oh, I love my fans. Thank you so much. I hope to squish you all someday. I just am actually going on tour with Amazon Amanda. September 19th, I think we start. All the details are on my website and on Twitter. And I'm actually going to Montreal the 30th and 31st for fetish weekend as well. So if anyone wants to be squished in Montreal, holler at me.
First and foremost, I can't top that, but all I will say to that is you're squishing people. You're, like I said, squishing hearts, squishing minds, but all I got to say, all in all, you're having fun and you're doing the damn thing at what you do. So, Gia DeLuca, I will say this to you once more. I truly wish you nothing but love, happiness, and nothing but continued success, and I truly mean that. So, for Gia DeLuca, my name is Mike Larkin. This concludes another edition of On the Mic with Mike. Gia DeLuca, it is a pleasure. I look forward to doing this again, and thank you for your time today.
Same. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Talk to you in the next episode.